Welcome to the Veterans Cafe podcast, where we talk about issues surrounding veterans and soldiers, as well as current events in the world.
Sometimes we interview guests and organizations, but more than anything, we are here for you.
Welcome to another episode of the Veterans Cafe podcast. I'm Wes.
I'm Tracy.
And ladies and gentlemen, we found it. We have found the ultimate retirement plan.
Well, for those of you who don't know, I'm Hispanic, right? So, and I have a Chihuahua, which is just like one of the great loves of my life.
Which means she's channeling more Hispanic.
So this story is even that much closer to my heart. It's so awesome to me.
She actually tanned better just reading this story. I'm just throwing that out there. So a Spanish man was fined after his employer discovered that he'd been absent from work for 6 years without notifying anybody.
And the only reason that they know is because they were going to give him an award.
Not only were they going to give him an award, they were going to present him an award for 20 years of service.
I think it's so funny. So awesome. Well, of course, share the link, but I think it's so funny.
So 69-year-old engineer Joaquin Garcia decided, fuck it, I'm not going to come to work anymore, and just stopped showing up. And nobody knew about it. And what's funny about it, what happened was actually that
That's so awesome.
basically the people, he worked for like the city water company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the city water thought that he basically, in terms of supervision, fell under the mayor. And the mayor thought that he fell under the city water company that ran the city water,
Mm-hmm.
The utility company. And so he was just like, well, I guess I just won't show up for work tomorrow, and just decided not to come in for 6 years and continued to get paid by the city.
What's funny to me, though, right? Like in the article, it said that he would occasionally go, like he'd have like periods of time where he would go to work. But they basically said that when he went to work, he would study philosophy. So I just find it so funny. I mean, I like to think that I have a good, strong work ethic, and I know my husband does. But the story just cracks me up.
They actually ended up, the BBC local newspaper actually gave him the name The Phantom Official.
So funny. So funny. I don't know. I mean, we often talk about, like, if we won the lottery, what we do with money, but we never play. Well, this feels like, we don't even have to enter the lottery, right? We could just, I guess you'd have to work in Spain. But anyway, I just thought this was...
come on. This is a local city government problem. I guarantee you there is some city you can find here in the U.S. where you could just, I don't think I'm going to show up tomorrow, and just not go in and continue to get paid.
That's so. It's I don't know why I find it so cute, but I just find the story so cute.
It's not that it's cute; it's that this guy figured it all out. And when it was all said and done, they finally, they caught him. They were like, "Here's your award," and he wasn't sitting there in the seat, which they finally noticed. They ended up fining him $30,300. Which is just under a year's pay. So this dude basically made off with 5.25 years pay.
Yeah, it's pretty
for doing
interesting.
nothing. I mean,
I find it fascinating. I don't know. I find many topics fascinating, but just the fact that they were trying to give him an award and he wasn't even there, I just find it funny. I don't know. But speaking about like work ethics and just having to work more or having to work less, but in this particular case, having to work more, we found a story in the news that we wanted to talk about because it affects, it affects you. It affects me. It affects you too, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah. So according to Stars and Stripes, our Army Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, basically said here recently that he thinks that the Reserve and National Guard forces in the U.S. should be the bulk of our force. People talk about how the military is only at 460,000, but it's actually still over 1 million when you count reserves and National Guard. And what he's actually proposing, since there are cuts still happening, I think 70,000 cuts are going to happen in active duty this year. So he's talking about how we should continue to bulk up the reserves and the National Guard to have a more ready force for, especially for things that are going on in Europe. He of course specifically mentions the things that are going on with Russia. So he's actually in order to actually make this proposal happen, he's talking about extending the amount of training that reservists and National Guardsmen actually go through to be prepared and combat ready.
You and I have talked about this before on the podcast, even just that there are certain challenges that I feel you have if you decided to enlist for the Reserve or the Guard, right? Because, of course, legally you can't be fired from your job. But if you feel like, or if your employer feels like you're missing too much work, they will certainly find a way to make sure you're not up for promotion, or, they'll find a way to fire you for something if they feel like you're missing too much work, right? So we've talked about it before. So when I hear about things like this, of course, I've always only been a reservist, but when I hear about things like this, like I get worried for people unlike me who have like jobs that they have to go to. So if I suddenly have to drill more than like 2-3 days out of a month, if I suddenly have to do it more than that over and over and over, I feel like my employer, would start to not treat me fairly. So it's interesting to me because I can kind of see both points of view, right? If you have more reservists, and of course you're automatically going to save money because, active duty costs a lot. That's a lot of soldiers that are working every single day. Like when we go to schools, if you're a reservist, you're at the top of the list because we're not part of the budget, things like that. So I understand it from like a global picture, but from like a more personal picture, I worry about the families that have income that they have to worry about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it says in the article, though, it does say that it didn't specifically mention anything about, as far as the drilling monthly, more days being added on. It talked more about units being required to go especially to California and Louisiana for NTC and JRTC. Mm-hmm. More like it should be almost a yearly requirement as opposed to a pre-deployment requirement. So that may be all they're talking about, but I mean, who knows? I mean, they can only increase the amount of days so much before they end up reaching the same numbers as they were with active duty. You know what I mean?
No, I know. I've heard before, like other officials talk about like extending the amount of time that we drill per month. But I've heard it in different like veins. Like I've heard them talk about like what I've talked about before. I feel like we don't get to, as a reservist, certainly from my own experience, I feel like we don't always have a lot of ammunition for every single time we do like weapons call, for example. So I feel like as a reservist, if there's plenty of ammo, if I'm able to improve my score versus just 0 and qualify and then I'm done, I feel like I would be a better all-around soldier, right? Just using this as an example. So I kind of like the idea of where the reserves and the guardists get more training, but I'm also fearful, like I said before, of the fact of what's too much training. Because in my position as combat camera, I'm really lucky I get to travel and I love every single day of it, but I'm limited the amount of time that I can train for a year, right? It depends on like where it comes from, like how the order's cut. So I don't know. I can see both sides with this. I think it's fascinating.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of the bulk of the responsibility to be on the backs of reservists and guardsmen, just because it's financially smarter for the government. But I don't know. At the same time, having experienced both active duty and the reserves or guard, there's really, in terms of the training that they're proposing, I don't think it's gonna be that huge of a difference. You know what I mean? I don't feel like sending a unit to NTC or JRTC every year is going to have that much, more of an impact on their training level that's going to increase their combat readiness. I mean, they'd be better off, to me, increasing the amount of drill days if that's what they're going for. Mm-hmm. But I think you're right, too. I think that would be such a hassle and, it'd be terrible to have to try and deal with that with my job.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. For someone like me, I mean, I have my own small, tiny business, so I'm in essence my own boss, right? So, when a mission comes up and I'm free, I'll go. But a lot of people don't have that freedom. A lot of people have jobs like you have, so... you have like a typical full-time amazing job.
It's not typical. I'm special.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I see positives and negatives with everything. I do love the idea of reservists and guardsmen going to JRTC or NTC. That would be awesome. I mean, I've been in for just over 6 years and I've never gone. So I think that would be so cool. Just the amount of training.
You just say it would be so cool because you've never gone.
Probably.
It's terrible.
Probably. But I just love the idea of that kind of training. I don't know.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
You're probably right.
It's objectively, it's good training. You know, it's good for the unit. It's good for the guys and the girls and everything. But yeah, it sucks. It's horrible. It's not fun in any way. You know.
Well, and you're probably right. I mean, like
it's not like you do 3 to 5 days in the field and then come out and then we did this in the field. You know, and you can shower and have a good time. And no, it's a month of just preparing and then 2 to 3 weeks of the field and then breaking everything down and it's such a hassle. It really is.
I could only assume, like I can only imagine. I don't know. I just like the idea of that kind of like actual simulated training in an environment that is supposed to feel like you're really deployed. I don't know. I just think that'd be so cool. But then again, I've never deployed and I've been wanting to. But so to me, that's probably why I think it's so cool, right? I don't know. So speaking of cool, there's some new emoji that we wanted to mention.
Yes. If you have ever spoken in emoji in the past via text, you're probably a little bit of a loser. I'm just going to throw that out there. But now that we have the new Kim Jong-un emojis,
I think it's hysterical.
which are essentially they were designed to be a parody of Kim Kardashian's app, which I didn't even know she had one, which is probably means that I'm in the right part of mainstream, culture and everything if I didn't know she had an app. But anyways, some guy in Houston, my own very own hometown, created a Kim Jong-un app that allows emojis to be used of Kim Jong-un's face. And it looks...
They're so adorable.
Part of me wants to write the show notes for this show in Kim Jong-un emoji, just to see if you guys can pick up on it. But it does look hilarious.
I loved him in that movie that is like one of our favorites.
What?
Team America.
That was Kim Jong-il.
Oh!
That was his father.
Oh, no.
You realize that was like 15 years ago or something.
Oh, no.
Why is everyone so fucking stupid? Why aren't more people intelligent like me?
Okay, never mind.
Like entire generations have passed since that movie.
We should mention it anyway. It's a cute
movie.
But
what's funny though is that his kid is just as psychotic as he was, even though he was like all worldly. Kim Jong-un actually went and studied in other countries, and like everybody kind of thought he might have a little bit more Western
influence.
Influence. Perfect word. Influence in his whole thought process, because he actually traveled the world and everything. But nope. Kim Jong-il died. He stepped up and just turned into the next god of North Korea. And so he just turns out to be just like his dad. So
I don't know. I just thought the emoji was cute. I just wanted to mention it. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting in the news before we talk about like another veteran topic is just the sharks, the black-tip sharks. There was a story not too long ago, and it was in Florida. And one of the reasons we live where we live is because there aren't any sharks on like the Gulf side, right? Or if there are hardly any. There always like seem to be like on the other side or like south. So anyway, so I was like, who knows what I was doing, but I got like a news article or news alert on my phone, and it was about a shark. And I actually kind of felt sorry for the first time in my life for the shark, because it turns out like a couple of like local kids found a shark somehow, and it was black tip, I believe. And they were, I don't know if they were fishing or what have you, but they somehow got a hold of a shark and they put it like in a local condo, like in a swimming pool. And ultimately the poor shark died, because of the chlorination and everything. But it made me stop and think that, oh my goodness, can you imagine? You're just like at home, at your condo, your apartment complex, wherever you are, even on vacation in a hotel, and you're just like strolling by, enjoying your day, and you look down and there's like a shark in like your pool. Oh my God, it was so horrifying.
It looks like that shark actually lived.
No, did he really?
Yeah, they found it and they pulled it out and released it, but he still had like the little hooks and everything in his mouth.
Poor
from the
little
kids.
guy. Well, I'm glad he survived.
Well, the little kids were trying to make him live. But yeah, anyways, with the black tip shark thing though,
Yeah.
you can see the video. I'll post to the video, and apparently now is the time of year that they migrate. So
But they're still not on this side.
Yeah, they're not on this side. They're on the West Palm Beach side, which is the Atlantic side, and we're on the Gulf side. But yeah, they literally there's this plane flying overhead, and it looks like a freaking swarm of bees in the water. I mean,
like a horror
tens
movie
of
right there.
thousands of sharks just swimming down the coastline, and I'm talking like close enough. You could be out there swimming and throw a rock and hit one of these sharks.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say right now, fuck that. I don't want
Jaws-
nothing to do with that.
Well, of course I'm older, but Jaws, the original Jaws, is like one of my favorite movies of all time. And there's so many lines in that movie that, oh my God, I love. We're gonna need a bigger boat, and I could go on and on. But, oh my God, no.
No, indeed.
Yeah, just no.
I don't need nothing to do with that. But also, one more thing before we move on to our last veterans issue is I had to mention your
What?
your boy Kanye.
Oh no, he
At
used
it
to be
again.
my boy. He's not my boy
I
anymore.
have to say that
For the record, he's
also,
not anymore.
Also, for the record, one of the few things the president and I have agreed on is this jackass. Basically, this guy, it turns out he's $53 million in debt because of his shitty clothing line. And he ended up releasing his new album recently, and he's not going to sell it on iTunes. He made sure to let everyone know he's not going to sell it on iTunes, nothing like that. You can't buy it anywhere unless you sign up for Tidal, which is Jay-Z's new streaming service, right? Mm-hmm. And then right after the release, he turned around basically begging his fans on Twitter to sign up for Tidal so that they can listen to his new album. Mm-hmm. And subsequently reached out to Mark Zuckerberg via Twitter and said that he should invest $1 billion in Kanye West ideas because he's the greatest artist that has ever lived.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I actually read this little bit of information in the article, but the article was actually talking about how he had a meltdown on Saturday Night Live because the stage wasn't set up quite the way he wanted it to, and he's an artist, god damn it.
I know. It's crazy to me.
He's an artist.
It's so crazy.
Respect him.
So crazy. I used to be a fan of his, oh my God. When we first met, 6-7 years ago, I was a fan of his, and yeah, I'm pretty horrified right now.
It's almost a...
I've been horrified for a while,
It's
though.
almost a...
I don't know. I mean, they say like power corrupts, but oh my gosh.
It's almost ironic that you listen now to more Taylor Swift than you do Kanye West because you hated Taylor Swift and you're all defending Kanye West when all that whole business went down.
What was that song with the cop that sang that did her song? Oh my God, what was it? Shake It Off?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that song is so cute to me when I'm out there miserably running or if I'm on the elliptical or whatever. That song is just so cute.
Wait, I have to read this. This is straight from the article. Another unhinged behavior after tweeting he was $53 million in debt this week. Kanye begged, quote, Mark Zuckerberg invest $1 billion into Kanye West ideas. He tweeted that literally, unquote. He then declared of himself on Monday in the third person, he is the greatest living artist and greatest artist of all time. And then tweeted at Google co-founder Larry Page, quote, I'm down for your help too.
I'm so embarrassed for him. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, he has lost it completely.
I'm honestly just embarrassed for him, just as from one human being to another human
That's
being.
your boy. That's your boy right there.
Used to be. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say because I always want to I'm always one of those people who who tries to be like, oh, if you're helping somebody else, you're going to help yourself kind of thing. I don't know. And I I don't even know what to say about him anymore.
It makes it even worse to me that he came from like a decent background. Like his mother is like a teacher at Harvard or something like that. I mean, it's not like he grew up in the hood and this and none of that shit. So
I don't know.
Anyways, speaking of depressing, let's move on to the last.
Yeah, and trying to help someone. I don't know. This story really breaks my heart, but I definitely think it's important to talk about. There's a tattoo that I've been wanting to get for a while. And the reason behind it, we can talk about later on another podcast or what have you, is just because it's one of those things that's supposed to shed light on depression, whether it's PTSD or whether it's some other, depression. And of course, we're here for veterans. And I don't know. This just breaks my heart. I hate that this is a true story.
So recently it was revealed that at least 23 veterans, troops, or family members who called the Veterans Crisis Line in 2014 were transferred to a voicemail system, and their calls were never returned. And this is not just like, we're not just talking about an emergency line. We're talking about a suicide hotline. Mm-hmm. So at least 23 veterans, troops, or family members called the suicide hotline, reaching out to people for help, which is what we are constantly, obviously, trying to talk about and do. Trying to get these guys and girls who are having these issues to reach out to someone and get the help they need. And these people actually try to reach out to someone, and they get a voicemail.
What's worse is the voicemails were never returned. So we're talking about 23 human beings. We're talking about 23 people who enlisted voluntarily. And it just breaks my heart because it I don't know. I mean, how can you just not return their phone calls? It just breaks my heart. I don't know. I don't even know what to say other than I'm so sad.
Yeah. The article actually says that basically like a watchdog group looked into it and investigated. And what it turned out to be is that whenever the crisis hotline is at sort of like peak operation, when they're getting the most calls, it actually gets sent over to contractors who are hired to provide backup services. And they were never trained nor talked to about having to deal with this type of situation with mental health crises. So essentially, they just basically sat there and just let it go to voicemail and then never responded to it ever.
We do... I don't know. I mean, as veterans or just soldiers, I mean, we've sat in I don't even know how many PowerPoints just talking about, just look out for your friend and look out for your buddy. And, we all have the ACE cards and what have you. And I don't know, it just breaks my heart that there was something out there like that the ball was just dropped so severely. And, we just
it's not even being dropped, though. It's being just completely neglected. The article continues to go on to talk about an actual Florida veteran here in Tampa, where we live.
Yeah.
Was talking about how he was repeatedly put on hold for up to 10 minutes while he was literally in the middle of like some suicidal breakdown. Like he was in the middle of this situation where he needed to be talked down.
I know.
And he was put on hold. As if this was like
he's ordering a phone or a dishwasher.
As if this was like fucking Target customer service or something. It's amazingly insane and so totally unacceptable. And what the worst thing about it is, we sit here and talk about it, and even though it's being reported in the news right now, nothing is going to happen, and this stuff is going to continue, and it's depressing as hell.
I know. No, I know there are a lot of organizations that recently have, well, at least that I've noticed recently, that have been trying to address the fact that, that statistic that's famous but not accurate. There's 22 veterans a day, who commit suicide. I mean, we can talk about that in another podcast, especially if I'm actually able to get the tattoo that I want. But I don't know. I have to say, my husband and I have said this before. One of the reasons we're here is because we want to help veterans in every way possible. And we're all over social media. I'm more of a social media nerd than my husband is because he's just busier than I am. So,
and because she's more nerdy than I am.
Well, that's true. So I push up my glasses right now. But I I'm not to be depressing, but I mean, if you know anyone, or if you suspect anything, I mean, definitely reach out to anyone. Reach out to us. You're more than welcome to, because I'm the big nerd who's always on social media anyway. But there are legitimate organizations who do care, and we care. So I just don't want something like this to continue to happen. But I do think it's important to talk about.
So this is obviously an unfortunate situation, and we definitely hope that you don't find yourself in this position. But if you do, we are going to link to a couple of resources that we came across in our show notes. You can definitely go to if you feel like you need to reach out to somebody and you don't want to reach out to us personally. You can definitely reach out to these people. A couple of websites that we found, and even numbers that you can call. And make sure you reach out to them if you feel like you need to talk to someone.
And let us know if there is a hotline that you know of that could be helpful for someone else, because that's why we're here, right? We have your back, but we want you to have our back too. So
if you do want to reach out to us, send us an email at themax@vetscafe.com, or you can reach out to us on Facebook. You can look on our website and you can find my phone number. You can do whatever you need to do to reach out to us if you feel like you want to reach out to us. We're definitely willing to talk to anybody at any time. So definitely let us know if you want to talk.
Oh, definitely. And of course, I'm the social media nerd, so
I do
most
have.
likely you will find me.
I do have a social media nerd on staff.
Mm-hmm. And my phone, my wonderful iPhone 6, which is always just like by my head, So definitely feel free and reach out.
So thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Veterans Cafe podcast. Don't forget to head over to iTunes, and if you get the time, give us a quick review, whether you love us or hate us, and definitely hit that subscribe button and make sure you get an episode right before you wake up on Wednesday morning. I'm Wes.
I'm Tracy.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Visit our website to join the conversation. That's vetscafe.com, vetscafe.com.